After 2 days of the government shutdown and 3 weeks with a temporary reopen, what's next? To update us about the latest in Washington, here's our politics expert, Lee Vines.
Good to be here.
Good to see you again, Lee.
Same here.
Yeah, so this government shutdown lasted, what, it was 2 or 3 days. I think it was, what, 3 days it lasted?
About 70 hours.
Yeah, it wasn't
precise.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people were fearful about it. We thought it was going to go longer, but they decided to come to a middle ground for 3 weeks. What exactly happened? For those who are not updated, why did they have this government shutdown?
Well, you know what? The Democrats, Chuck Schumer in leadership, specifically along with Dick Durbin from Illinois, were pushing the DACA issue. They wanted to make sure that this issue was going to be addressed in this particular session and not have to go through. That's the reason why they went to the mat and decided to shut the government down. The only problem with it, and the reason why it lasted such a short period of time, and now this is just my opinion, is simply because of the fact that the Democrats were fighting the right battle, but at the wrong time. In my humble opinion, I would suggest that the Democrats would have been a lot more successful if they had expanded their argument beyond just the DACA. There's 800,000, roughly 800,000 dreamers out there that are awaiting some sort of sense of closure or some sort of path to citizenship, and if not that, at least legalization. And these are the individuals who had come out of the shadows. They gave their names, they gave their addresses, they are vetted. These are people who stayed out of trouble, stayed in school, served the country in the military, etc. So to ignore all of those positives in order to address, how should I say this tactfully, but the ruby red wing of the Conservative Party, it was definitely a fight to take, but they would have been better if they had expanded it to the shutdown of the government to include the $700 billion that the Republicans are requesting for the Defense Department this year. They would have been better off if they had added the health care issue to the fight. Now, if you add these things to it along with the DACA, then you have 800,000, maybe 850,000 federal employees who are furloughed would say to themselves, well, you know what? I can understand why they're doing it. There's something in it for me. We are trying to make more funds available to the social side of the country. You're trying to make sure that the sick, the poor, and the young have access to funding as well, as opposed to sending all of this money to the military. Because if you understand, if you've been following Donald Trump and his message, it's like, we got to have a great military. We have to upgrade our weapon systems and things like that. So what's happening right now is that Donald Trump just yesterday tweeted out that if there's no wall, there's no DACA. So
and what do you think that message right there, how did that influence? I mean, do you think that that's not helping his message? I don't think that's helping the Democrats to see that he's trying to work along with them, which I don't think the Republicans are. You know, sending out a message like that, if there's no wall, there's no DACA, what does that say to the American people who are trying to fight for this?
Well, it says to the American people that the administration and the GOP has doubled down. They are speaking primarily to their base. One of the reasons why they are pretty much certain that any promises that they would make as far as in the Senate is concerned is that anything that passes the Senate still has to go through the House again to be approved as well. The House is full of a very, very large number of red meat representatives who have their constituents to answer to. These people are coming out of places like Iowa, Indiana, Kansas, Missouri, Montana, et cetera. Those are what we would call flyover states. They do not see very many people from Ghana. They don't see many people from Honduras. They don't really give a whole lot of care about this issue. So as long as they speak directly to that 35% of the nation, they are pretty much, and they will stick together. These folks will stick together with what Donald Trump wants to do no matter what. And so they're pretty much in the comfort zone. On the other side of the table, the Democrats are fractured because during these negotiations, Representative Gutierrez from Illinois, as well as Donald Trump, when they went in to speak with Donald Trump, and when they went in to sit down with the negotiations and showed up on the Sunday talking programs, they were really willing to say, you know what, if we can keep the DACA folks here, we will give in and give the funding of $20 billion to the wall. That did not go over well with the progressives. The progressives wanted to hold the line on this. People like Ms. Harris in California, junior senator,
Yes.
people like Elizabeth Warren in Massachusetts, people like Bernie Sanders,
Of
obviously.
course they're not going to agree to this.
They
Chuck
weren't,
Schumer,
going, they weren't going to agree with
Of
that.
course.
And that in and of itself exposed the wide gap in the Democratic Party. So unless they can come to terms with themselves and approach this issue in a united way, I suspect that the shutdown could happen again.
So we're talking about the end of the 3 weeks. You don't see them coming to a compromise on this because both sides don't want to compromise. Like you're saying, they want the whole pie, right? Instead of coming down the middle. To pass, especially for DACA recipients, to pass the DREAM Act, they want to go a step further for these people.
Well, the Democrats, if I have their argument correctly, what they want to do is to make sure that there's somewhat of a pathway to citizenship for a lot of people. And I'm not just talking about the DACA recipients, the DACA folks, or the Dreamers. I'm talking about their parents, the people who literally brought them here. Mm-hmm. The president is stuck on this getting rid of the chain migration issue, and that in and of itself could cause a huge humanitarian crisis in the community of people who are living in the shadows right now. The reason being is that, okay, we say that the Dreamers can stay, but their parents still have to be on guard 24/7 to find out whether or not they're going to be picked up. So the Democrats literally have to stand their ground on this, otherwise they could themselves create a humanitarian crisis. And that's one of the reasons why I think that these negotiations should not necessarily be held behind closed doors, because when they come out, everybody said that they heard different things.
Right.
And the Democrats, specifically progressives and independents, they are a little more forceful than the establishment wing of the Democratic Party, which Chuck Schumer represents. And so they would like to know how much are they giving away in order to get these small things, because what they actually got out of this is a promise. There is no guarantees that anything that they come up with, bipartisan or otherwise, is going to be taken up in the House. And for them to accept the promise from, how should I say this tactfully and diplomatically, from a pathological liar. This is something that has been proven
Very
over
tactful.
and over again by a number of sources, including people close to him. So anything that they would get verbally and not in writing, not legislatively nailed down, you're really leaving yourself open to a lot of disappointment.
We have to wrap up, but what do you see happening when or if or when the government does shut down again after February 8th?
I would say that there's a high probability that it will happen, simply because Chuck Schumer has been placed in a corner right now. He's got to stick with his constituents, and his constituents are really, really unhappy. So if he is forced to stick with his position, and we know Donald Trump will, there's no other way out other than another shutdown, and then it's going to start costing people some serious money. It's been said that a shutdown could cost this country $6 billion with a B every week that is not functioning. So you're going to have some serious pressure on both of these parties to get something done, but just as much pressure on the other side to make them stick with their guns. So I would predict that another shutdown is definitely in our future.
Well, let's see what happens. Thank you so much, Lee.
Good to be here.
Thank you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Open.